City of Lakeland Planning and Zoning Board. The board meets every third Tuesday of the month to review proposals for changing the city's comprehensive plan, its future land use map, zoning changes consistent with the map, and conditional use permits. The board is made up of 7 members appointed by the City Commission and is assisted by the staff of the Community and Economic Development Department and the City Attorney's Office. Staff will advance any presentation slides that should have been provided prior to the meeting. The meeting is divided into 2 parts. The first part is a public hearing where we expect to hear new applicants explain their request and receive comments from affected parties. The second part of the meeting is termed the general meeting and primarily consists of acting on recommendations from staff about the cases that came up in the prior month's meeting. We invite everyone who wishes to participate to be heard. We do ask that you be concise in your comments and that speakers avoid being repetitive. That is, if several people have pointed out traffic concerns, there is no need to hear additional comments regarding traffic again. But we would like to hear anything new that has not been addressed. In order to allow everyone to have an opportunity to speak, there will be a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, and the clerk has a timer for this purpose. We respectfully ask that you adhere to this rule. We also ask at this time that you silence all mobile devices. Also, if you do come up to speak, please give your name and your address. With that, we thank you all for being here, and I'll turn the meeting over to the Secretary, Ronald Roberts.
Good morning. Item 1, conditional use to allow for the construction of 2 duplexes on property located at 830 Lakeshore Drive. Owner, Millennia Realty Group, LLC, applicant Samuel Graybill, and this is for consideration of final decision.
Hello, good morning. Damaris Stahl, Senior Planner of Community Economic Development. This request is for conditional use permit to construct the 2 duplex on the property located at 830 Lakeshore Drive. The subject property is zoned MF22, multifamily residential, within the Urban Neighborhood Context District. The map displays here the general location of the property, and the surrounding uses are all, excuse me, all single-family residential to the north, west, and south, and then a retail plaza to the east. The property is currently vacant on approximately 0.46 acres. This year, excuse me, this here are the current images of the property. This is facing the property. There was a former single-family home that was recently demolished on the property, so the old driveway is still there. This here is on the east corner facing northwest, and you see the single-family home, the adjacent single-family home there in the foreground. This is the east property boundary facing west. This is the adjoining plaza that's to the east of the property. And this is the street view facing south towards East Lake Parker Street. And this is the street view facing north. This is the proposed site plan of the 2 duplex that will be on the property. Currently, the parcels are, it is a 3-lot parcel, and it will be divided into 2 equal lots. The total lot size on here is it's 150 wide by 135 deep. So the parcels will be divided 75 feet equally just to have the duplex on there fit properly. And I will stop here and allow the applicant to answer any of your questions and before I read the conditions. And this is for consideration of approval, go to City Commission next month.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ben Beckton, born and raised here in Lakeland, and Samuel Graybill is our civil engineer who submitted the application. So I just
Could
wanted
you
to
give your
speak to the...
address, please, sir?
Excuse me?
Your address.
Oh, my address, our office address here in Lakeland is 227 North Tennessee Avenue, and my personal address is 3412 Lilas Court. So my first time speaking before you, so apologies for any mishaps. So we acquired this property as a package that we purchased of 18 homes a couple of years ago. And this site, we just felt that the home was quite dilapidated and didn't merit a remodel, and there was a much higher use for the property in that area. So we started this process, engaged Sam, and originally we're thinking of doing a larger project, but found that it was cost prohibitive and that there wasn't enough space for parking and drainage and things like that. So we had combined the lot, but we feel now that dividing it and providing 3-bedroom houses or 3-bedroom duplexes to 4 families is an incredible use for it. We're actually licensed general contractors as well, so we'll be constructing this project, so we have full control over getting it done quickly, efficiently, and building a structure that will be a benefit to the city long term. We also, having dealt with lots of properties, I'm in the real estate industry here in Lakeland, having dealt with lots of properties recently, there's a severe demand, as you likely know, for rentals in this area, and they've become almost to a price gouging standpoint for the available inventory. So this is going to provide homes for 4 families, and there's also a severe shortage of 3 bedrooms. So this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath proposal site plan. It allows families to have a backyard and a front porch. So it meets the porch and stoop requirement. And something that's very rare about this site plan is that we've also allowed for garage parking, which falls within the requirement for that area for what's needed for curb appeal. I think it's a great project and would be happy to answer any questions. We plan to start on it essentially immediately once we've gotten it through the approval process and submit our structural plans for this layout.
Are these, I do, are these 1-story units which keep in line with the rest of the 1-story homes that are surrounding it?
Yes, ma'am, they are. And I think they'll be in keeping with the style as well. You'll see that we also added the sidewalk and we added a break in the driveways for landscaping so that each side will feel like its own space and be quite appealing from the curb appeal standpoint.
So, just along those same lines, they're duplexes, but they're not 2-story duplexes.
They're single-story duplexes. We didn't want to go vertical with them, so you'll see the site plan here, there's no stairs, so they are single-story.
So one is, are they both fronting the street? There's one behind the other.
Nope, they both front the street, so you would actually turn that and it'd be facing you. So the driveways, all 4 face the street, which is why we added the garages and the porches to give it good curb appeal. So you'll be able to park 1 vehicle in the garage and 1 vehicle, you could park 2 vehicles in the driveway, but we only intend with these size residences that you would have 1 to 2 cars max. And it would allow room for visitor parking as needed without impeding the street traffic or anything like that. So I can tell you that I think it'll be a huge enhancement over what was going on there previously. And as you can see, we've demoed the lot and got it nice and flat and ready for the project.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes. I guess what's generating the conditional use fee in this case?
It's the MF12 zoning. It requires duplexes to apply for additional use. I think the feeling was, just because duplexes are such a, low cost of entry, they want to make sure that they're higher quality product when they come through, other than just having speculative development where people are just pulling permits and people have any sort of review everything. Review the plan that does meet the LDC, parking, entrance feature requirements. It is a, side-by-side layout, basically where each half kind of mirrors the other half there. So as, the applicant indicated, each unit would have its own backyard and sort of personal space. So we think it's a good design and it will work for the neighborhood, which is to the west of Searstown, if you're familiar with that area over there. So there was a high demand for this type of housing in that area.
Just considering the multifamily zoning that's out there, do we anticipate that there are going to be more of this type, or are we anticipating more higher density in the future? What's the thought?
Well, the MF12, I mean, that limits it to 12 units per acre, so it's not like around downtown, around Lake Wire, we could go up to 75 per acre. So generally, these smaller lots, infill sites there, you're very limited as far as the number of units. So once you get into 3 or more units, you start getting to commercial site plan review, sprinklers, things that add a lot to the cost, and that doesn't really scale out very well unless you have a bigger site. You can do maybe 100 units. So we don't anticipate seeing a lot of intense multi-family development here, but if someone wanted to do a couple of triplexes or a fourplex, they could certainly do that by right under the zoning.
Any other questions from the board?
And this was essentially our solution to that exact problem that he just mentioned. Our original intention was something vertical, and the site just doesn't allow for it. It's cost prohibitive, and I think this is a great solution. We may be sacrificing 1 to 2 units, but instead of 1 and 2 bedroom units, we're delivering 3 bedroom units with 2 bathrooms, which I think is actually more in demand right now with growing families in that area. So I really appreciate your time, and we look forward to doing this project in the city. Thank you.
Any comments from the public? None?
Have we received any feedback from the public, emails, letters, or anything?
No, I did not receive any emails or phone calls for or against. I didn't get any feedback at all.
Do I hear a motion to?
Conditions.
No, we have
Another
condition.
question?
Conditions. She has to read the
Yeah.
conditions.
The following conditions for the project are, the permitted uses is for the 2-family dwelling, which is duplex. Maximum intensity use is the the 2 duplex, 4 dwelling units total. The development standards, the project shall be developed in accordance with MF22 urban neighborhood zoning classifications, except the minimum lot is 75 feet in width. Minimum lot area is 75 by 135 feet, total of 10,125 square feet. The site development plan, the project shall be developed in accordance with the site development plan attachment B. The entrance feature, each dwelling unit shall include a covered entrance feature, either stoop or porch, as defined in figures 3.4-5 and 3.4-6 of the Land Development Code. Landscaping and buffering in accordance with subsection 4.5.4.2 of the Land Development Code. A minimum of 1 large A tree shall be planted per dwelling unit, 2 per duplex, in lieu of the landscape plan at the time of building permit review. The specific trees, species to be planted, caliper, and planting location shall be shown on the site plan for each of the dwelling unit. And
Any questions from the board on conditions? None? Now do I hear a motion that we approve the request subject to conditions set up by the city?
I move to approve with the conditions.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No motion's approved.
Item 2, minor modification of plan unit development zoning for Lakeland Central Park to allow for the allocation of existing multifamily residential entitlements within parcel 12 on property located at 2615 Airport Road. Owner LCP Phase 2 LLC, applicant Timothy Campbell, and this is for consideration of final decision.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Good morning. For the record, my name is Philip Scarce. I'm Principal Planner with Community Economic Development. We have a minor modification to Lakeland Central Park development. We'll show you, this is the site here, New Tampa Highway, Airport Road. They have a spine road, Winston Park Boulevard, which will connects with the steeplechase on the east side of Airport Road. So again, this is the site here. The site is currently under construction for the Phase 1, which comes in these portions. The Winston Park Boulevard has not been punched out to Airport Road yet, but the area in question is right here. As PUDs get modified over time, or as in this case, as the more advanced engineering has occurred, not land uses get allocated, but storm ponds, wetlands, floodplain mitigation, those things kind of get altered as you get into that fine engineering, as you nail down the final engineering. So what the plan is to again, this is the master site plan that was approved as part of the PUD with the modification a couple years ago. The area in question here is Lot 12 or Parcel 9, or actually I might have them mixed up, but this is the area in question here. Previously, this was, these are the retail and office uses here. You see in orange. These were previously approved for office support retail uses as well as residential uses. So the fact that residential uses have already been included in the plan, but with our last PUD modification, this area here that was previously orange got allocated as open space. And then we have a little bit of office space, office and retail here, and then we have on this northwest portion of Winston Park Boulevard. There was a prohibition in this condition here. There's a prohibition of multifamily uses within this lot here, within this parcel. They are seeking to remove that prohibition from that parcel. They are proposing 252 multifamily units on that parcel. This would be the new site plan, the overall master site plan. The language in the in this paragraph would include multifamily uses, or excuse me, the previous version of this language had multifamily uses prohibited on Lot 12 there. That language is just getting taken out, and the multifamily users are getting allocated on this lot. It also is growing a little bit, and I'll show you here in a little bit more detail. That orange area is growing a little bit here to accommodate for that multifamily. Nothing else changed. Winston Park Boulevard on this portion, on this phase of Lakeland Central Park has not been, brought out to Airport Road yet. You'll see that in the slides here. But this is looking north on Airport Road into the site where the multifamily is proposed. This is looking southeast at Airport Road and Winston Park Boulevard, looking into Steeplechase. This is looking directly.
Laurel Highlands. The lakes at Laurel Highlands.
What's that? Lake Laurel Highlands. Excuse me. I apologize. I get those mixed up. Excuse me. Lake Laurel Highlands. I should know that. This is looking right at the west, right at Airport Road at Lake Laurel Highlands. This is where Winston Park Boulevard will get punched out eventually. And this is looking east into Lakes Laurel Highlands, standing on the sidewalk there on Airport Road. The site plan, this is only a conceptual site plan for the multifamily. They will, again, multifamily has already been, and residential uses have already been included as part of this PUD. They're just moving the location. That's why this is a minor modification. So this is Winston Park Boulevard here, and this is going to be the multifamily, 252 units. And I'm going to stop here and let the applicant come up and speak and give you some more detail about the project.
Good morning. For purposes of your record, I'm Tim Campbell, law firm of Clark Campbell Lancaster Workman and Erith, 500 South Florida Avenue. I don't really have a lot to add. This is pretty simple, and this is consistent with the staff's desire all along for Lakeland Central Park that it not be all industrial. They encouraged and desired residential and office type of uses, although it's a difficult site to do some of that. And so what the developers found that this parcel was ideal for a multifamily development, and it's allowed there except for that one prohibition in that Exhibit C. So we're just asking that the prohibition be removed. The change, and I'm glad the site plan's up, the change in the kind of the size of the parcel is to allow the access there on the spine road to be as far west as possible to keep it away from the intersection. So it's a relatively simple request. Thus it's coming to you as a minor modification. We stand available for any questions that you have and request your favorable consideration.
And I'll jump in with a little additional background as well, is that this was the former Lakeland Central Park Development of Regional Impact. It was approved back in 2008. And so it's, definitely, 729 acre mixed use development that has a history on it from DRI now, Planning Unit Development and Zoning Ordinance. But it also has a development agreement in place which addresses transportation concurrency. So in terms of this particular use relative to the retail, the trip trade outs work, it all falls within the bounds of the development agreement that was approved by the City Commission back in 2020. And so everything here is still part of the overall master plan, and as Mr. Campbell noted, it's our desire to see something that is a true mixed-use development. And what is good about multifamily on Airport Road too is it helps with the transition between more intensive warehouse uses as you start to move further west and north towards Old Tampa Highway and Lakes Laurel Highlands across the street. So there's a lot that really works in terms of this plan here that's shown on the screen. We do have a couple of tweaks that were discussed at the development review team, primarily related to the location of the lift station and the kind of the ultimate taper. The driveway connection or Winston Park Boulevard connection to Airport Road is still going through the DOT permitting process, and so there may be some changes there that come out of that effort. But there may be some tweaks that are related to the lift station and the ultimate configuration coming up to Airport Road.
How big is that parcel?
I'm sorry, this site plan is just conceptual, and it's not part of our request today. It will go through the development review team process, so staff will have the ability to provide comment on the details about the layout of the plan.
I assume from your comments that you feel this one issue as far as having multifamily homes within a certain range of that one parcel is fairly certain that will be resolved. Is that correct? The one issue you mentioned that where you can't have within a certain range of that one parcel, can't have residential. What you want to do.
It's as Philip described, the designation there on that exhibit, let's see if I can pull this off. So, there we go. There's the parcel. And so he described its retail service is the color of that parcel. But in all this stuff that none of us can read at this size, it says that this retail parcel that you're allowed to have residential uses in it. It just so happens for this one lot, see this is also the same color, for this one lot in the old one, come on now. Okay, it's not going to cooperate. In the old one it says on that lot, which is Lot 9 and Parcel 12, it says no multifamily, and that's all we're changing. So a residential is allowed, we're just allowing the multifamily use. And we already have multifamily allowances within all of the agreements that Chuck spoke of. So we're not asking for a new use, we're not asking for more uses, we're just asking to remove that prohibition to allow the placement of the some of the multifamily in that lot.
Okay.
How big is that parcel, please?
I don't know. Do you know the parcel size? This is an industrial park. That's been since 2004, so we're just trying to introduce some residential in it. And it's an ideal location there at the intersection of the Parkway and Airport Road. And I don't know if I can see the size.
I thought it was around 10.
11.62 is what you have in the staff report. So 11.62 acres.
Any other questions from the board?
How many stories in height are these apartment buildings going to be?
I don't know, because the plans are being, I don't even know if they've been submitted, but
I haven't seen the
they've
building
not
plans
been
yet.
submitted, and they'll be whatever, we have all those restrictions built into the PUD, and so we're not asking for a change to that. But honestly, I don't know that the plans have been finalized or submitted, other than this concept layout. My guess is 3, because that tends to be what's the market now, 3-story walk-up.
Any other questions at this time?
So what's the background about why the restriction was out there before? As I understand from the DRI, a lot of that just sort of carried over to the PUD. Is this old DRI language?
Good question. Chuck, do you remember why on earth there was a prohibition on Lot 9?
I think the reason why we had a prohibition there was trying to get more retail in the Airport Road corridor at a node that made sense. And that was also back at a time when, frankly, the multifamily market wasn't nearly as strong as it is today. And so, things have certainly changed over the past 15 years, and it makes sense now to try to get, at what will be a lighted intersection, more density, something that's a better transition with the single-family residential across the street, while we look at other opportunities for retail up and down Airport Road. So that's really, I think, the big change. It's the market conditions and the fact that we really need to be more cognizant of how we handle the transition from the warehouse industrial to the single-family to the east.
Yeah, retail's been very kind of tricky on that corridor. If you recall, a couple years ago, we approved a modification for the Steeplechase PUD. I believe it was for 42,000 square feet of kind of mixed commercial retail there. And I believe the developer actually wants to go forward as with a medical office, Chuck, was that what it was?
Yeah, office, about
Office.
maybe medical.
Yeah, so even the market just is not showing much interest in developing retail out there in that area.
I can add that, and now I've got this working again. This area, you can see parts of it are not within the PUD, so these smaller parcels, and you can see that's a pond area. This is a more difficult site to work with, so ultimately it was determined that this was the more appropriate. Philip talked about how, as you get into your engineering and your planning, some things become more obvious. It was clear that this was more appropriate of the site for the multifamily than this area. And so that was part of the background.
Was not the language that it was actually parcel 6 where the multifamily was originally intended?
No, we're not moving it. The only thing we're changing is there was literally, there, now that I figure this out, there was literally something in this that I can't see that says multifamily is prohibited on Lot 9. And we're removing that. But as I explained earlier, those residential uses are allowed in the orange-coded parcels.
As I understand from the previous hearing was that they were anticipated for above retail dwellings. Am I incorrect in that understanding?
Multifamily above retail?
Yeah.
that's never been a part of any of our presentations for Lakeland Central Park.
What is the language about comp plan amendment associated with that note?
This is in our PUD, so it doesn't change our comp plan designation at all. It's just within a PUD under the
My
comp.
question is just about the note, the language of that note. What, and maybe somebody on staff can help me understand it. What does that language mean?
Means the note simply meant on that parcel that we could do any of the uses that fall within that orange, but not multifamily. And I think Chuck probably explained it well, that at some point, the thought was to encourage, to get that mix, to encourage retail. And the idea then was that was the better spot for retail, but it's become obvious that it's not. I'm trying to see if I can see the.
Yeah, so the note says, the warehouse land use category may also include limited support retail service and office land uses. Multifamily residential land uses may be located on parcel 6 at a later date, pending a comp plan amendment requesting a land use designation allowing those uses.
And that's to the west. So the warehouse parcels are the ones that are in the lighter lighter tan color. And so that is a different area. And so what we wanted to do is at least leave some placeholders for additional multifamily further to the west. But it doesn't relate to the retail that's right there on Airport Road that's the subject.
But the PUD only includes 300 multifamily dwellings, is that correct?
Yes, as it stands today. And so with this being 252, and we do have trade-offs in terms of trips and that would allow for reductions in, say, warehouse and increases in multifamily. So we do have the ability to trade out uses as long as the transportation and utility impacts are held the same.
So I guess it just comes back to the question of what is this language about comp plan amendment requesting that designation changed?
I think that's, again, another holdover from when the PUD was established. It wasn't really, I don't remember this as part of the DRI, but I think it was more of a PUD issue. And that was back before we started to see the state legislation, or the state legislature change and try to encourage or allow communities to approve residential within certain types of industrial and commercial districts. So I think the thinking there is that we would want the opportunity to allow residential at some point, depending on the type of warehouse or business park or whatever whatever the use ended up being, to try and make it as interchangeable as possible. At that time, expecting that we would need to amend the comprehensive plan. Now that the state statute has kind of relaxed a lot of the restrictions that had been in place traditionally that affected local governments, that's much less of an issue. I think we would still need to clean that up should we get a multifamily request on this property, on lot 6 in the future. But that's something that we would deal with depending on the specific plan that came forward at that time.
The answer to your question, with the magic of glasses and getting really close, that says multifamily residential uses can occur on parcel 6, which is not what we're talking about today, with a comprehensive plan amendment. So that provision, I don't know why that would be gone. Is that still in here? So that provision's still in the new one, and that relates to parcel 6. And it's just saying, I think that parcel 6 is deeper into the park, and I think that was kind of a maybe when we went through the PUD, but it would require a comprehensive plan amendment to do multifamily on parcel 6. That's what that says. And we're not changing that. And we're not seeking multifamily on parcel 6.
Yeah, I was, again, not a part of the first one, so I'm trying to understand what allowances were previous versus where we're allowing now today. Obviously, you look at the legend, there is no multifamily color, right? So I read note 1 as you can utilize multifamily in parcel 6. You just have to go through this process to do that. So us essentially saying, yes, you can move it to parcel 12 take out that note, no big deal, we're cool. I don't know if that was the original intent of those uses. I don't know if that makes
Well, I
sense.
think Tim just said that he's not changing any, this isn't changing anything as it relates to parcel 6. He's only talking about the parcel that's along Airport Road.
I agree.
And-
Except for the fact that that is all inclusive of one note.
And you're right, there's not a separate multifamily category, but it falls within other categories. So multifamily is allowed within the orange, the 2 parcels that are orange, except in the past, there was a prohibition of multifamily in the Lot 9, Parcel 12. And so multifamily, you already said, there's 300 units allowed within this entire development. It was allowed within the orange category, but there was a prohibition on Lot 9. That's what we're removing. So we're not creating anything new, we're not introducing anything new, other than the allowance of the placement of some of the multifamily units on Lot 9.
And then I guess my next question is, was the surrounding areas notified? Have we heard anything from local residents? And did you engage with any of the locals just about what this change might be?
We didn't engage with Rooms to Go warehouses to our north, or the subdivision to the east, Lakes Laurel
Highlands.
whatever that was. I didn't do any better than Philip. But they would have received, I don't know what notice that, whether there's the notice sent out on a minor modification.
It was just the placement of the sign, there was no notification sent out.
And they are all located adjacent to a industrial park that's been approved for about 20 years. So I think they're pretty familiar with the activity that is going on in that
Well,
Lakeland Central Park.
the houses that abut Airport Road at Lake Laurel Highland, they have quite a buffer with retention ponds, so they're set back off the road quite a ways, and they have some screening with trees and whatnot between them.
And I think part of that's
I'd
a
rather look at
commercial
apartment building
mode
than a
too.
warehouse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I only bring up that question again because I was not familiar with this parcel, so I did go back and watch the previous hearing, and one of the comments that a lady made was, I wouldn't want 300 multifamily dwellings I don't know if it was this parcel or the parcel to the south. I know that was controversial and a concern.
That was from the development
Correct.
that is to the south, on the south side of that Spine Road. It wasn't it was not from Lakes,
Yeah, it's Carolyn Lakes.
it was not from Lakes Laurel Highlands.
Yeah, and the history of our case was, watch now that I got this figured out. These are residential lots. Lakeland Central Park has purchased most of them. But back in the day, any of the comments that we had in our hearings came from lot owners here. And so they were talking about multifamily in this area. They were not residents of that spot.
I have a quick question. The smaller orange parcel, that's included in what we're voting on, correct? Or no?
No,
Okay, all right. Do you, and this is just for my curiosity, if retail didn't work up there, the retail services, do you think that would be a candidate for smaller retail services?
I think
they
so.
need them.
I agree. I think so. I think it's ideal, but I'm not the engineer and I'm not the developer who determines the market. But yes, I would think, because there aren't any kind of, I guess this is approved for some level of commercial, retail on the other side. But I'm with you. I would think that would be a good location, but I don't know what happens there.
Thank you.
And in terms of the current allowances through the development agreement, the overall development allows for 5 million square feet of industrial warehouse, 125 hotel rooms, 650,000 square feet of office, 225,000 square feet of retail, and 300 multifamily dwelling units. So this is definitely a sizable development that's intended to really have a wide palette of uses to help really create kind of a sense of place in this part of Lakeland.
Any other questions of Mr. Campbell?
One last question.
Try to get you down, I couldn't do it.
Recognizing the extension of the parcels for access purposes, that's correct. I think these were perhaps, there was a phasing of construction associated with the original PUD. And I understand perhaps multifamily was the latter phase. Are we looking at possibly that changing?
So as I think Chuck mentioned, so phase one development is occurring here. You can see the pad if you're on the Parkway being developed. It's a building being developed here and here. So phase one is being developed. They're working on all of the plans and approvals to kind of gear up for phase two. And I believe the multifamily's in phase two. And so part of our, one of the discussions we've had is if we plat phase two, even though this isn't ready yet, that we would plat this. So we'll move forward however the city requires, but it's not phase one, so we're not having to move the phase for the multifamily.
And then my last question is, if we don't approve this today, where would the multifamily development fall in this plan?
Hopefully, in the unlikely event you would do that. I don't know. This site at some point, if they acquired the other parcels, and this is, as you can see, the dark green, this is wet, so it's not developable. And so this is a more difficult site, so I don't know if it would be there or if we would lose the opportunity to have multifamily within this industrial park. And I think that's part of the staff's desire all along, and that's why the placement of these types of uses, the commercial retail and the multifamily residential is along Airport Road, as Chuck mentioned, because it's a great transition from the single-family residential to the industrial. And like I said, they've approved some commercial here, and at some point if we have commercial. So it's really an appropriate planning transition into what will be all, industrial and distribution facilities.
So what I'm hearing is really this is the last real potential for multifamily in this development.
I think so. I don't know. Again, I'm not the engineer.
I mean, are you asking if they're planning to put more apartment buildings? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm again curious that their original plan did not allow for it, this location, yet the overall plan provided for 300 multifamily. Where did they plan to put it?
There had been discussions earlier on about somewhere, kind of where the first curve, there on the spine road coming off of Airport Road.
Parcel 6?
Yeah, I think parcel 6, and in that area would be the more likely spot for multifamily at that time. I think that because of, the importance now of Western Park Boulevard and Airport Road and just what we're seeing with the multifamily market is that, I think we all as staff agree too that this really is a much better situated for not only road access but also transit service. The developer's working on developing a transit stop that would be located on Airport Road and the Citrus Connection. We're working with them to potentially realign or better serve this area as well. But it's better for them to be able to do that off of Airport Road than more internal to the development. So I think it was just, like Matt had said, the retail market is a lot softer out here than what it was. And the multifamily is so much stronger that it just really works from a connectivity and a location standpoint.
And further, since as far as the history of this, an iteration of this plan earlier than, of course, what is proposed, or that had orange here. And so, as far as the original intent, would be along that frontage was all orange and multifamily. And at some point, as we went into this site development plan, it was determined that may not be developable. And I'll tell you, if you ask where other uses are going, I think from an engineering perspective, they've determined that maybe they were kind of quick on the gun there. So I don't know if at some point they come back and propose to change that and have a mix of commercial retail or the rest of the multifamily. I don't know, but that, we'd have to come back and go through the whole that would not be a minor modification to do all of that.
Any other questions of Mr. Campbell? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public?
Again, Philip Scarce for the record. There are no conditions associated with this. The PUD will be modified to include this new attachment C. The previous attachment C, again, will be stricken, will be deleted. And this new attachment C with the language taken out, the prohibition for multifamily residential uses on parcel 9, lot 12. I might have got that backwards, but yeah, that's the only thing that's occurring here. Again, the site plan that we showed you was just conceptual. They have to come back through site plan review. They'll have to comply with all the standards of the land development code, including the buffers along Airport Road, and their own development requirements there. So again, staff is recommending approval of the minor modification with a new attachment C.
I hear a motion to approve the staff's recommendation subject to the adjustments that were just mentioned to us.
I move to approve staff's recommendation on this project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board.
Okay.
Okay, we move into our general meeting. And item 3 is the review of the March meeting minutes.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Okay. So I hear a motion to approve the minutes as presented to us.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4, major modification of plan unit development zoning to allow for the construction of a 41,000 square foot field house building, a 4,000 square foot expansion of an existing child care building, and relocation of existing off-street parking facilities on property located at 3620 Cleveland Heights Boulevard, Lakeland Family YMCA. Owner, Young Men's Christian Association, applicant Shelton, Rice, Peterson, and Myers, PA. And note, this is continued from a previous meeting.
Good morning again. For the record, Philip Scarce, Principal Planner with Community Economic Development. Correct, Mr. Roberts, this was continued from the March meeting. This was originally heard as public hearing in February. We're coming to today for a recommendation. As you recall, last month I stated that there were still some conditions that needed to be revised and modified, specifically the transportation conditions, and those have been, we have worked those through with the applicant, and they'll be up here in a minute to discuss their opinions on the staff memo. But again, this is the 3620 Cleveland Heights Boulevard. This is the YMCA that we all know on Cleveland Heights Boulevard. Here's the site here, existing Y and Westover. This is Carlton Palmore Elementary School. This is Peterson Park. Very familiar with the area. The request was to add a 41,000 square foot field house building. here. Change the parking configuration. Westover will be the more of the primary frontage, more of the access, which it is today, really. But it's more of a focus on Westover. This is the main building here, and then there's an expansion of the child care center in the rear. Won't go into too many details. Again, this is the little bit blown up here. This is the field house. And then the expansion of the child care center is pretty much already under roof already. They're just going to be filling that in, adding more square footage, livable square footage per se, or just gross floor area to that child area here. There will be primary access points along Westover here, again with the new parking configuration. This also includes, they're also showing portions of Three Parks Trail, or did I get the name of the trail right there, Chuck? I apologize.
Three Parks Trail.
Three Parks Trail, yeah, my apologies. Getting names wrong. And then they also have a access, pedestrian access connected to the field house as well. There's an existing wetlands here. There's nothing that is being modified. There is a city canal that runs along here down to, from under Cleveland Heights Boulevard over to Lake John. That I did get a call from the neighbors to the north saying that they want, that keep that canal acting as a buffer to the Y, when there's nothing proposed within that canal. That will remain city-owned and maintained canal that's not being modified. The only thing we're doing is adding that field house. Won't go through all the details of the staff report. We'll just give you the history of the Y and an explanation of the changes. We're going to go into, I'll go into the conditions. This is coming to you with a recommendation of approval. I'm going to go over the general conditions, and then we'll have Mr. McCloskey, our transportation planner, discuss the transportation conditions. So we are recommending approval. It is recommended that the request for a major modification of the PUD as described above in Exhibits A, B, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 be approved subject to the following conditions. Attachment G of Ordinance 3470 as amended, land use intensities, PUD 30. B, permitted uses, indoor and outdoor recreational uses operated in conjunction with the YMCA. And then C was stricken, the setbacks. Excuse me there. C language, the minimum building setbacks. Minimum building setbacks shall be shown as shown on the revised site development plan as attached in Exhibit 1. Access, the main point of access to the property shall be from Westover Street. And that's that condition. Landscape buffer, a landscape buffering shall be in accordance with Section 4.5 of the Land Development Code. F signage, a double-faced prime identification sign may be located on the northeast corner of Cleveland Heights Boulevard and entrance road to Curtis Peterson Park in accordance with the attached sign plan proposed with sign drawing in Exhibit 2, subject to the maximum sign area of 72 square feet per face. And again, that language was already there, approving the sign that was already there. They have a new sign exhibit that will be attached, a more updated sign that will be attached as an exhibit, and it should be in your packet as well. G, the site development in accordance with the plan submitted with the application, a copy which is included in Exhibit 1 with the approval of Director of Community Economic Development. Minor changes to be made at the time of site plan review without requiring modification to the PUD. H, architectural elevations. The field house building located adjacent to Cleveland Heights Boulevard shall be developed as follows. Maximum building height shall not exceed 36 feet. The building shall be designed and constructed substantially in accordance with the elevations included in attachment in exhibits, 3 and 4. Both the field house and the child care facility expansion shall not be subject to the ground floor transparency requirements in Section 3.4.7 of the Land Development Code. With the approval of the Director of Community Economic Development, minor changes shall be made at the time of building permit review without requiring a modification to the PUD. And at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our Senior Transportation Planner, Terry McCloskey, to discuss the transportation improvements conditions.
Good morning, I'm Terry McCloskey. I'm a transportation planner with the Department of Community and Economic Development. And I'm going to go over the transportation part of this. I'm going to read it as it is for the record, and then maybe I can explain it a little bit. With city funding, the southbound left turn lane at Cleveland Heights Boulevard and Westover shall be lengthened to accommodate future left turn vehicles queuing. To minimize the impacts on an existing residential driveway located to the west of Cleveland Heights Boulevard, on the west side of Cleveland Heights Boulevard, north of the intersection, the turn lane is expected to be extended for an appropriate length of 40 feet. During site plan review, the city and applicant shall determine who will perform this work based on factors such as cost and impact to the traveling public. You get a light head staring at me now. So there's a turn lane that leads into the Y. And the way that they were built in the past, they have these really long tapers on them. And we actually observed, and their traffic analysis showed that if we could just get that turn lane back, we could kind of accommodate the demand of the vehicles that we're going to want to turn there in the future, right? So that's part of that, is to get that turn lane lengthened back so that you can clear that lane and people can keep going. If you've ever seen it out there, it's almost like a one-way. And you know, they get gaps to turn, so that's that improvement. Internal ADA compliant pedestrian routes is generally depicted in the site development plan shall be provided, which connect to the local sidewalk network and the three parks trails, right? And you can see on the site plan, they've done a good job of giving us pedestrian network connectivity. Bicycle parking shall be provided in accordance with section 4.11.6 of the Land Development Code and Index 900 of the Public Works Engineering Standards Manual, and that's basically a parking area for bicycles with a certain type of bike rack and within, I think, 40 feet of the entrance. At the time of the site plan review, the new driveway connection to Westover Street shall be designed to ensure adequate throat length and compliance with the Land Development Code. That's kind of a normal thing. We wanted to point out, I don't think there's any more, is there? No. Okay, we wanted to point out that there was two other things that came up. We had asked them to provide lighting at the Westover and Cleveland Heights intersection because only half the intersection is well lighted on the south side, I think. And I think they were, you know, they were talking about doing it, but the Lakeland Electric has stepped in and has put that under the street light fund, and they're going to put the other pole out there, so it'll be a nice, safe intersection. We also wanted to get the markings, the crosswalk markings out there in that intersection redone. Turns out there's a resurfacing job coming through, so they're going to be redone under that. But the intersection will be nice and safe for, you know, the people that go over to the park and go over to the Y and go over to the school. And I think that's about it, unless Chuck wants to add more to that.
No, I think, Terry, you covered, you covered it well as far as the traffic analysis. You know, the project generates about 1,300 additional daily trips, about 120 in the morning and 150 in the PM peak. But the conditions as they're written will address the additional impact associated with the project. And then the site plan really does address connectivity to the Three Parks Trail, which is funded through DOT under design by the city of Lakeland and scheduled for construction later this year. So once that's done, that will complete the Three Parks Trail loop around the 3.5-mile loop that just south of from Edgewood all the way down to the Y in Peterson Park. So we're anxiously waiting for that to happen. So this is all, everything's all starting to come together at this location at the same time.
I have a quick question. The ingress and egress driveway for the Y, does that directly, is that directly across from the ingress to Cleveland Heights Animal Hospital, or is that one a little bit farther east?
There's an offset in there. It was really kind of a balancing act to try to get the driveway connection as far back from Cleveland Heights as possible, but also not impact the large trees that are just to the east of that. So we're comfortable that the driveway placement there won't create any additional operational issues with the animal hospital to the south.
Oh, I'm happy to see the extra 40 feet because I just drove that yesterday.
It's busy.
It's very busy.
The other egress or the other exit that used to be on Cleveland Heights is closed also.
Exactly.
So a little safer there too.
What's the increase in parking spaces? I mean, you're adding a lot of square footage to this facility, and I know parking is always a challenge in their parking lots as they exist now.
Looks like,
I mean, I live by there and walk by there
Shared
pretty
drive.
much every day. There's always empty parking.
The hours I go, I guess it's not the case. They're parking in the grass under trees and everything else.
There it is.
267.
158 to
285 spaces, as opposed to 158 spaces.
they added a
That'll help.
Definitely a substantial increase in recognition that you go out there sometimes a day, that parking lot is just slam full.
Yeah, I mean, they're parking in the road, they're parking on the grass under the trees and everywhere else.
I've never seen them park on the road.
I think people who go to Peterson Park for the baseball games are perhaps the ones that park in the road, but I've never seen people from the Y do
Right,
that.
because the
Oh, I
entrance,
have on
Yeah.
Saturday mornings
Have
and
you?
stuff, yeah, yeah.
Well, this'll help. There you go.
Definitely, definitely.
Any other questions for me? Turn it back over to Phil.
Make the sign nice.
And I'm going to ask Shelton Rice, Peterson Myers, to see if he has any words on staff's presentation and recommendation.
What's the location of existing off-street parking?
Good morning. For the record, my name is Shelton Rice. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Peterson and Myers, address 225 East Lemon Street, excuse me, Lakeland, Florida. Today I'm here on behalf of YMCA. I'm sorry about the cough. My 4-year-old who started preschool has brought home every bug that he's come across. With that said, Mr. Scarce, we appreciate your presentation and all the staff's work. We continued this at the last hearing so that we had a little more time to work through the conditions, to iron out some of those details. I believe we've done that. I believe the conditions that Mr. Scarce has presented are acceptable. We agree with all the statements that they've made. We think this is a good project. We're improving the parking. We're providing, this additional 135 parking spaces, providing this new Jenkins Field House. So this will be a general benefit to the public. We think this is a good project with a good team, and we appreciate all the staff and the city's support in getting this done. So we'll stand for any specific questions you have. We appreciate your time. We request a favorable vote. Thank you.
Any further questions? We're not acting on.
Hey, Sheldon.
yes.
We are. Okay. Any other comments from?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we hear a motion then to approve the request subject to the conditions discussed?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you all very much.
Looking forward to this project.
Yeah, me too. Make the sign nice.
Item 5, application of plan unit development zoning to allow for the development of 19,600 square feet of professional office-type research and development, warehouse storage and limited industrial service, wholesale trade uses on property located at 2815 West Pipkin Road. Owner, Kobabi and Kashaban Patel. Applicant JSK Consulting.
Good morning. For the record, Todd Varga with Community and Economic Development. We saw this project last month. It's located on the north side of West Pipkin Road, specifically at 2815 West Pipkin. You can see the airport, and there's West Pipkin Road right there. The subject property is just under 2.5 acres in size, and as you can see, is currently undeveloped. It was annexed into the city in 2008 as part of a larger initiative annexing 159 acres. And in 2010, it was assigned a business park future land use designation. However, for some reason at that time, zoning was not applied for. So it has no zoning, and that's why it's in as a PUD to develop. Here's a picture of the property from West Pipkin Road. Again, you can see it's undeveloped, and you can kind of see in the foreground the work being done on West Pipkin Road right there as they're widening it to four lanes. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. This is the same location, just pivoting to the west a little bit, looking at the cell tower that's on the adjacent property. Again, as we saw on the location map, the proposed development is located southeast of Lakeland Linder International Airport and on the north side of West Pipkin Road, which serves as a major east-west corridor between South Florida Avenue and County Line Road. The applicant's plans call for 2 office warehouse buildings, each approximately 9,800 square feet in size. In accordance with the comprehensive plan, the area located south and east of Old Medulla Road and north of West Pipkin Road has been identified for the future development of business park uses in support of the airport. These proposed uses the uses we're proposing with this PUD are similar to those found in Parkway Corporate Center, which is located to the east of the airport along South Pipkin Road. So we know that this these are the type of uses that will work in this area. High traffic generating uses such as retail will not be permitted under the conditions of the PUD. You can see here's the site plan, and again you can see the 2 warehouse uses, and then there is a sidewalk going out to West Pipkin Road and some bike parking, and then there's some stub outs to the neighboring properties to the east and the west. Again, this is so that to get from one place to the other place, you don't have to go out onto West Pipkin Road. You know, as this develops, if somebody wants to go from this side to the next side, we don't want them coming out onto West Pipkin Road, which is an arterial road operated by Polk County, because that is bad planning and bad traffic management. Again, West Pipkin Road is operated by Polk County and classified as an arterial roadway. In this case, due to the significance for freight movement and high-capacity connectivity to the urban core. As we all know, if we've ever driven this in the last year or two, Polk County is currently widening West Pipkin Road to 4 lanes between Medulla Road and Hardin Boulevard, and widening West Pipkin Road to 3 lanes between Hardin Boulevard and State Road 37, South Florida Avenue. Adjacent to the subject property, West Pipkin Road will have sidewalks and bicycle lanes on both sides of the roadway. Construction of these roadway improvements is expected to conclude next year in 2024. The applicant has coordinated this access point to the subject property with Polk County. So there shouldn't be an issue there. Pardon me. And I think last month there was some, this is a black and white version of the site plan. And I think last month there was some question about the uses that we were permitting on this, in this PUD. So I was going to take you through some examples and the definitions. So these are the uses being permitted: office uses, non-medical, office type research and development, warehousing and motor freight transportation uses level 1, industrial service uses level 1 but not automobile towing services, and wholesale trade uses level 1. So the first use that we're permitting for the PUD is non-medical office uses, which are establishments which primarily focus on activities conducted in an office setting such as administrative offices for businesses and government agencies, professional offices, and financial services. So examples of non-medical office uses are lawyers, accountants, architects, and engineers, financial businesses such as lenders, brokerage houses, insurance agencies, real estate agencies, and financial planners, and the like. The second use that we were permitting in the PUD is office-type research and development facilities, which are research and development activities not involving processes or activities of an industrial nature. Such uses shall include establishments performing research and development on a contract basis, as well as facilities of manufacturing or other activities performing proprietary research and development. So I think the key there is not of an industrial nature. Warehouse and motor freight transportation uses level 1. These are uses which generally have a moderate impact on their neighbors, and they include general warehousing and storage, mini warehousing and storage, outdoor storage of boats, motorhomes, trailers, and other equipment as a principal use, self-storage warehousing. So in these more industrial uses, you get into what our code, we reference these SIC groups, which stand for the Standard Industrial Classification. So we can't, the Land Development Code certainly can't list every use that's permitted or every use that exists. So we refer back to these SIC groups or Standard Industrial Classification groups in order to help us get a basket of uses that are permitted. So that's why these are going to be in the next couple ones. The next use that's permitted in the PUD, industrial type service establishments, level 1. Again, those industrial type service establishments, which generally have a moderate impact on their neighbors, including catering establishments, cleaning and maintenance services, machine shops, refrigeration and air conditioning service and repair, repair shops and related services, shops but not work or storage yards of building construction contractors, shops but not work or storage yards of special trade contractors. And again, there's some SIC groups there too to further round out the uses. I think this is the final one. Wholesale trade uses level 1. Again, they generally have a moderate impact on their neighbors and include things like electrical goods wholesale trade, furniture and home furnishings wholesale trade, hardware and plumbing and heating equipment and supplies wholesale trade, professional and commercial equipment and supplies wholesaling, sporting, recreational, toy and hobby goods wholesaling. And then with your permission, I'll go ahead and, I'll let you know that we have received no communication from the public. Nobody had any comment on this proposed PUD. And the conditions of approval, A, permitted uses, we've kind of already gone over this, but office uses, non-medical, office type research and development, warehousing and motor freight transportation uses, level 1, industrial service uses, level 1, but not automobile towing services, and wholesale trade uses, level 1. B, site development plan. The project shall be developed in substantial accordance with the site development plan included as attachment C. With the approval of the Director of Community and Economic Development, minor adjustments may be made at the time of site plan review without requiring a modification of, it says with this conditional use. I guess we should say planned unit development. I'll make that change for the City Commission. C, development standards in accordance with I-1/suburban special purpose context subdistrict standards. D, outdoor lighting in accordance with section 4.6 of the Land Development Code. E, transportation. 1, binding concurrency determinations shall be made at the time of each commercial site plan approval. 2, an ADA compliant pedestrian network is required between each building on site, and an ADA compliant pedestrian route is required between the new West Pipkin Road sidewalk and principal building entrances. 3, West Pipkin Road is a designated Type 1 roadway per the Land Development Code. Therefore, cross-connectivity with adjacent properties is required. Cross-access easement agreements shall be recorded with the Polk County Clerk of Courts, and I think I talked about that in my presentation. Still staying with transportation. 4, the West Pipkin Road driveway throat length shall comply with section 4.2.5.2 throat length of the City Land Development Code. 5, bicycle parking shall be provided in compliance with section 4.11.6 of the Land Development Code and Index 900 of the City Engineering Standards Manual. 6, prior to first site plan submittal, a Lakeland Area Mass Transit District annexation petition shall be submitted to its Board of Directors for consideration. And 7, project shall comply with all Polk County permitting requirements. I think that's all we have for that. So I'll stand for any questions. I'm going to bring the site plan back up.
Any questions?
I need to recuse myself from this. I've submitted the paperwork. My firm's engaged by Polk County for the widening of West Pipkin Road. So any potential improvements that might come from this could benefit my firm, so I'm recusing myself.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion, I assume, to approve?
I move to approve the plan according to city recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, change in zoning from limited impact office to plan unit development to allow for professional office and limited office support retail and personal service uses on property located at 2330 Commerce Point Drive. Owners Tamar Capital LLC, Tinsley Family Properties LLC, and Practice Building LLC. Applicant James Edwards.
Hi, good morning again. For the record, Philip Scarce, Principal Planner with Community and Economic Development. The subject property consists of the Tall Oaks Business Park. It's just about 9 acres office park, which was developed in the early 90s, as we described in last month's public hearing. This is the site right here. This is Commerce Point Drive. And this is the subject office park. The property is improved with 8 buildings with a total square footage of approximately 78,931 square feet when I did the math. Until recently, most of the office space within the Tall Oaks was occupied by Summit Consulting, a provider of workers' compensation insurance products, which recently relocated to a new office building here in downtown. With the departure of Summit Consulting, the office park has had difficulty attracting new office tenants. And with the COVID-19 climate, the work from home has just gotten stronger. It's just hard to attract more office uses. So this change of rezoning to PUD will hopefully breathe some new life into this office park. The subject property has a future land use designation of Business Park Center and is within the urban corridor. There are questions to obtain PUD zoning to allow for limited office support, retail, and personal service uses, in addition to their current entitlements, to provide more flexibility when leasing. And that's one thing I really want to note here is the flexibility with this. This PUD will give the developer or give the property owner the flexibility to respond to development trends, use trends, and respond to the market quicker than if this was just a standard O2 zoning, which would have to come back and apply for, maybe a new zoning category altogether. So the PUD will just give them flexibility as they move forward in the future. As I stated, it's about 9 acres. Again, 8 buildings, almost 80,000 square foot of uses. And I'm going to go and read the conditions, and because I want to get the conditions read, because it's to describe the new list of uses. But the site plan, it's important to note here that there is no development occurring with this PUD at this time. This is kind of a what you see is what you get site plan. So this is the existing conditions that are out here on the site today with the buildings and the structures and the parking. If they want to add new buildings, they'll have to come in for a modification to the PUD. It is recommended that the request for a change of zoning from O2 to PUD as described above in attachments A, B, and C be approved subject to the following amended conditions. And we'll go through the permitted uses. I went through these last month, but we're just going to go run through them again. The permitted uses, office uses, medical, and non-medical, and research and development, office support retail uses, business development, computer stores, drugstores and pharmacies, office furniture and office supply stores, sandwich shops and snack bars, personal service uses, barbershops, hair salons, and day spas, business service centers, including pack and ship stores, delivery services, exercise, fitness, and martial arts studios, music and dance studios, photocopying, offset printing, similar reproduction services, tailor and dressmaking shops, tax return and preparation services, travel agencies, vet clinics, hospitals, but not kennels. And also those uses operating under these characteristics are similar to the above as deemed compatible with surrounding uses and as determined by the Director of Community Economic Development. Community facilities, churches, synagogues, and other houses of worship, adult daycare centers, child daycare centers, vocational training for activities permitted in the district where this is located. I think that has a big potential there, which is not a permitted use in the O2, which is these vocational training centers and schools. Can be public, private, elementary. I doubt that elementary school, public elementary would locate here, but small private school, Montessori type, things like that. Healthcare and social services, blood banks, plasma collection facilities, infrastructure and transportation, communication studios, utility and essential service facilities, level 1. So your police stations, your sheriff, substations, things that nature can be approved here. With that said, I'll stand for any questions you may have. The applicant and his representative is here to speak on the conditions as well.
Any questions? No questions? Any other comments? No? Ready for a motion?
I move to approve the request with the conditions stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Item 7, plat approval for the Oaks at Lake Parker on 3.54 acres, generally located north of Lake Place Court, south of Heritage Landings Drive, and west of North Lake Parker Avenue. Owner, CMTG Real Estate Enterprises, applicant, JSK Consulting.
Again, for the record, Philip Scarce, Community Economic Development. We have a quick item this morning for you, a final plat or a plat approval that is for a 37-lot, basically townhome, single-family attached development. This plat has been around. It has a subdivision number of 17, so it's been around for quite a few years. We're eager to get this one approved to you. This is the plat here. Again, 37 lots. These are townhomes. There are 4 structures under development currently. The construction has advanced far enough to allow the construction of some model homes out there. And the only item remaining left is there's a water utility easement that'll have to be relocated. But that's been relocated, the easement just needs to be vacated, and they're doing that. They're going through that process as we speak. Again, we just recommend your approval for this plat. So when they are ready to get the Mylars and everything signed, we can take it and get recorded, and they can start selling lots. Stan, for any questions you may have.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Item 8, report of city commission action on planning and zoning board recommendations, along with planning and transportation managers report.
All right, well, we're almost at the finish line here. Yesterday, the city commission approved the Family Worship Center daycare, the OK Cars expansion and conditional use, the Lakeland Loft expansion downtown, as well as the Lakewire Apartments zoning change to MF22 zoning. All that was approved by the city commission yesterday. So the P&Z's recommendations were all approved. They ran the table. We've got a couple of items coming up, 3 items for the next meeting for hearing. The first is would be a conditional use to allow for a preschool at the Northside Assembly of God on Robson Street. The second would modify the PUD out at Airport Commerce Center to allow a hotel instead of the 2 fast food out parcels facing Drainfield Road. So this is very close to the Drainfield Airport intersection. And then one for the installation of a solar farm at Noah's Ark, north of Lake Crago Park and south of State Road 33. So those are the hearings that will be coming next month.
Any other comments? Any other questions?
One thing, for this modified PUD that's coming up, just for some background, because some of these have been out there a really long time, if we could get just some of that history to help us a little bit.
We will definitely do that. What is, and I think Lakeland Central Park was definitely one where, you know, we've got these projects that have been out there for 15 or 20 years, some of them even more, and you know, why were notes put in legends, why were certain conditions, and so we will do a better job of making sure that we provide that background. But with a lot of these large projects, just conditions change over time, and we do end up needing to amend to reflect current conditions and be as flexible as possible. But yeah, having the logic as to why we had the conditions to begin with would be very helpful.
Any other questions, Ms. Bowman? Any other questions of anybody from the department? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you all.